Good morning. Welcome to the Pizza Buffet, live here on the Hammer Betting Network, powered by Pinnacle Sportsbook. We are live on the Forward Progress channel on YouTube, and at Forward NFL on Twitter. Thank you very much for those who are also watching the World Cup on the side, as am I, with my trusty phone over here. Got the Ecuador-Qatar game going. What a great time to be alive for a sports bettor with World Cup and NFL going on at the same time. For those that are new here, this is a show where I will run through today's card in the NFL, top to bottom, rotation number order, lock in any bets that I think are still worth making. I'll lock in all bets against Pinnacle's lines, as Pinnacle is the official sportsbook partner of the Pizza Buffet. Pinnacle, the world's sharpest sportsbook, now available in Ontario. Find out what professional bettors have known for decades. Pinnacle is where the best bettors play. You must be 19 plus in Ontario, and please play responsibly. Not available in the US. I do say please play responsibly. I think now so more than ever is a great time to just have that 2-minute conversation. World Cup going on, NFL going on, lots of other stuff happening, NBA, NHL, college basketball. Bet within your limits. It's extremely important. You shouldn't be agonizing watching games or wanting to throw your remote through the wall or anything of that nature. So make sure that you can only bet. You're only betting what you can afford to lose, what you are comfortable with, a monetary value that is not impacting your life on a day-to-day basis. Please, I stress that as someone who suffered from problem gaming in the past, it is extremely important that you bet within your limits, bet responsibly. Feeling pretty good this morning. Coming off of chili cook-off 2022 yesterday. I tried to sneak a vegetarian chili into the mix and didn't work out so well, but sometimes you got to try different things. Unfortunately, this year, Chili Gene is not my lover. Did not win the chili cook-off, but feeling great, ready to go into this week's card. I do want to preach one more thing before we get started. Try to bank your bets earlier in the week. I mean, obviously, all of us want to bet NFL on Sunday mornings. I get it. That's why you're tuning in here now. But over the course of the week, if you can get in earlier, you're probably going to be doing yourself a service in the long run. If you're able to get in, with early bets, beat the closing line. It's going to be very difficult to beat the closing line Sunday morning at 11:04 a.m. So just be aware of that. For those looking for World Cup coverage, you can head over to the YouTube channel, Fine Margins with 2 S's, Fine Margins. You can also follow the account on Twitter as well. That's where our World Cup coverage will be coming over the course of the next month or so. That's where the World Cup plays to tail. I don't know if that you're necessarily going to want to tail them, but that's where they will be, because I will be throwing down on World Cup. I have no clue what I'm doing, but I do love to bet these games. I do love to get down on these games. All right, NFL today. Let's get into it. Just a general commentary on today's card as I pull up Betstamp. Once again, you can check out Betstamp at www.betstamp.app, or you can download it on your mobile device, Android or iOS. Great line shopping tool. You can track your bets. You can do all sorts of stuff. As I pull it up here in the background and go through today's card, I do anticipate that I will have a lot of bets today, just albeit very small. So I think this will be one of the higher volume cards of the year. I think it's important to note, if you don't understand why that's the case, then there's either been market resistance. So a side that I like, there's someone else who bets a lot of money on these games that doesn't like the same side or likes the opposite. Or we have the line hasn't moved enough as I watch Ecuador put this ball in the back of the net right here. This is a good bet for both teams to score. Now we need the Qatari goal. But let's get into it. NFL today. All right. Bears and Falcons. So we're going to start here with a very small play. Most of the markets come off of 2.5, Pinnacle 3. Now, I like Chicago at this number. I'm not glued to the +3. Obviously, if you're, lots of people just become obsessed with, I need to make sure that I get the 3 in this game, and they end up buying points or taking, prices that are not worth it for them to take. If 2.5 is a better conversion, take the 2.5 or play the money line. You don't have to pay for the 3. I am going to take the 3 here for a base unit of 50, which is typically a half play. If I could type properly this morning, I would do that. And I'm going to go ahead and track that. So that's in +3 -121 for 50. All right. I think needing the Falcons to win by 4 here, especially with the number at 3, is a little bit tough. Either way, I don't think that there's much separating these two teams. I don't think like the ascension that we've seen from Justin Fields over the course of the last month, I don't see that stopping in this matchup in particular. Atlanta probably gets a big reinforcement back in AJ Terrell, but their front 7 is terrible. They have long been the worst team in the league in terms of generating pressure. Their linebacking core in particular, especially in their base defense, is really bad. They just don't have the speed, in my opinion, to be able to slow down Justin Fields. I understand all the concerns with Chicago. Their defense is also terrible. They traded Roquan Smith, Robert Quinn at the deadline. Chicago's better against the run, but only by default because they're getting smoked through the air in every game as well. But ultimately, there's been a lot of these situations this year where you just got two bad teams playing one another and you're asking one team to win by margin. And I mean, I don't necessarily think that that's the case. So already got some controversy going on. First game of the World Cup in Qatar. Don't know what people expected, but I think that the Falcons here, I think the Bears here, are decent play considering that there's just not much separating these two teams. And there's also, not a stylistic matchup that I think favors the Falcons all that much in this game in particular. All right, game number 2. This one is the hold your nose special. We got Carolina and Baltimore. A lot of the market again has come off 13 to 12.5. I'm going to play the 13 with Carolina. And again, we'll stick to a half unit here. This is purely a numbers play on this game. I don't have the utmost of confidence in Carolina. I think there's a lot of scenarios in which the Baltimore Ravens can blow them out. However, I do think Carolina's defense is good enough to keep them competitive in this game. Now, Lamar Jackson looks like he's going to play. Missed Friday with an illness. Mark Andrews looks like he's going to play. Schefter tweeted it last night. He was also heavily involved in Friday's practice as well for the Baltimore Ravens. Carolina in the secondary, Dante Jackson on IR. It's good news that J.C. Horn is likely playing today. Jeremy Chin activated from injured reserve as well to join in at safety, which is big. Now, PJ Walker to Baker Mayfield. Honestly, no difference. PJ Walker out with a high ankle sprain. You look at PJ Walker this year, 123 plays on the season, minus 0.155 EPA per play. Baker Mayfield, minus 0.156 EPA per play. They have pretty much performed at the exact same level in terms of EPA. Mayfield very, marginally lower in terms of success rate. But I account for all this stuff. I account for the fact that there's a really bad quarterback on one side of this game. And I still cannot get to 13 here. I think Carolina is just a team that nobody wants to touch and market. Completely understand that. However, sometimes just hold your nose. I do think the Panthers defense is good enough, and they've shown several times this year that they are more than capable of being able to keep a game close. Now, they did get blown out in Cincinnati a few weeks ago. Seen a lot of people reference that game. Recall what the closing point spread was in that game, by the way, was near a touchdown. We're now up to 13 in this one in particular. So just over the course of a few weeks, we've seen a pretty drastic adjustment. I do think the Ravens are getting better defensively, especially in terms of pass rush. It's all starting to come together, but I cannot get to 13. Would you tease Panthers? Absolutely not. There's probably not a team on this card that I would be less likely to tease than the Carolina Panthers. For those that may not understand why that's the case and why I would say that, all these points that you're going to tease the Panthers through, 14, fine, but 15, 16, 17, 8, like there's not a lot of games that land on these numbers. So you're not getting really a valuable teaser. Again, I highly preach teasing through 3 and 7 as much as possible if you are going to play teasers, but definitely you're not grabbing enough valuable points in this game, in my opinion, to tease through those numbers. Thank you for those who are tuning in on YouTube on the Forward Progress channel. I do see your comments in real time. I do try to incorporate as much of them into the broadcast as possible. For those who are on Twitter, if you do want me to react to your comments or you have any questions that you'd like me to answer, jump over to the YouTube channel. It's at Forward Progress, and subscribe and like the content if you are enjoying it on a weekly basis. All right, game number 3. Cleveland and Buffalo. So market has kind of settled in here. 7.5. You see some off numbers, 8, 9.5. We all know that it's an Ontario book that's off market quite frequently. Total settled in at 50. So I sort of have to cross off this game just because of the amount of uncertainty. Buffalo ultimately ends up traveling at 4:00 yesterday. It was a struggle to get everybody to the airport, so on and so forth. Don't really know what to make of this situation this week. I do know that the Bills have a bunch of injuries on defense. Trey White's still not ready to make his return. Hopefully that's soon enough for that team. Greg Rousseau out again. Tremaine Edmonds out again. Jordan Poyer, status up in the air as of now. I hadn't seen anything prior to coming on air today. But losing Rousseau and Edmonds on defense or not having them in there is a pretty big blow to that front seven against a Cleveland team that I think will likely try to run the ball heavily today, despite the fact that they're, indoors and the conditions will be, conducive to passing. The Browns' pass defense is brutal. So they were hoping, I guess, probably to play in Buffalo where the wind would be extreme, but they're not. Detroit, games moved, optimal conditions for the Bills' passing offense. Doesn't matter what personnel is on the field. The Browns are second worst in EPA per play against the pass. The only team that is worse is the Detroit Lions. And then they lose Greg Newsome in practice on Friday as he suffered a concussion. I also look at Cleveland's pressure rates this year. I'm pretty surprised that they generate pressure at a surprisingly low rate. I think it's probably because they don't move Myles Garrett around a whole lot, but relative to what their pass rush was a season ago, it has fallen off. Honestly, pretty strong lean to the Bills here. Didn't end up playing it. Don't know how the travel impacts them, how life just impacts the team being at home with families, with a big snowstorm coming, so on and so forth. So ended up being a game that I chose to pass on altogether, but pretty strong lean to the Bills. And honestly, if this did get down to 7, which I don't expect will happen, then it would be worth a play in this game. Poyer's in. Thank you very much. That is confirmed. Played over 41.5 in a book that will not void. Would you middle it? Okay, so some people did get in on this knowing that, this is a pretty savvy move if you're able to do that. You find a sports book that does not void bets based off location change, and you bet the over. It's a pretty large middle, obviously. And there's a lot of key numbers between 41.5 and 50, especially 44, especially 47. So I wouldn't blame you if you tried. Personally, again, when it comes to middling, I think what you're looking for is that your true number on the total is somewhere between where you bet it and where it is now. So if you think the total in the game should be 51 right now, then why would you bet under 50 to try to middle it? Just keep your original position and you're laughing because you bet over 41.5 in a game where you're lining at 51. Now, if you're somewhere like 47.5, sure, middle it. So Really depends on what you think. But yeah, like where you think the actual total should be. In terms of where I think the total should be, I think it's fine now. I think it's fine. I think one of the challenges with the total in the 50s here with the Browns, I mean, the Browns could come out and play it a number of different ways, but the Bills do invite the run on early downs, and they're not really successful at stopping the run on early downs. So I think you're going to see a lot of Cleveland running the ball. And if one team is going to have a pretty run heavy game plan, I'm not so sure that I want to be, essentially playing a total in the 50s here. It's the same thing with Chicago, Atlanta, right? Both those defenses are horrible, but I think there's going to be heavy running in that game and two teams that play at a very slow pace, which kind of discourages me from betting what looks like an obvious over in that game. For XLF and anyone who joins late, you can always find my bets on Betstamp. Just search Rob Pizzola, and you can subscribe to that. Follow me on Betstamp. As soon as I lock in a play on the pizza buffet powered by Pinnacle, you will get a notification. But really quickly, as of now, just for those who may have tuned in late, we do have the Bears for a small play and the Panthers for a small play. All right. Washington and Houston. Little bit of money trickling in on Houston this morning as we are now out to 3 minus 105. I guess I woke up this morning, it was sort of 3 plus 100 range. Again, typically make your bets earlier in the week. You're kind of betting into the worst numbers available in the market right now. Big potential to look like an absolute moron in betting the Houston Texans today. And the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears. Wow, what a great card to start. I like the Texans. I think they're, I line this short of 3, closer to 2.5. I've been talking about this game a lot this week. I think obviously Washington comes in off of a win against the Philadelphia Eagles. They ran the ball really well. The assumption is that they're just going to do it again. Their rush offense has actually been really bad this season. They're the 6th worst in terms of EPA. They're the 4th worst in terms of success rate. You have Chase Roulier, Wes Schweitzer, 2 of their best offensive linemen on IR. I'll give credit for what Taylor Heineke has done, but he has 10 turnover-worthy plays in 4 games. Only half of those have actually manifested into turnovers. He only has 5 turnovers in those 4 games. So for perspective, he has a turnover-worthy play rate of 6.9% this year. Of all the quarterbacks that are going to start this week in the NFL, that's 1.3% higher than anyone else. Second is Zach Wilson. So I do think that the wheels are going to eventually fall off for Heineke, and you cannot just, consistently play in this danger zone and get away with it forever. Derek Stingley's out with a hamstring injury for the Houston Texans. I think that's less of an impact than people actually think it is. I think Stingley will be a great pro. He honestly hasn't been great at all this year. His coverage grades from PFF have been horrible. He's been targeted more than the other starting corner there, Steven Nelson. So he's given up a higher completion percentage as well. Don't think it's as big a loss as people think. And then say what you want about Davis Mills. I'm not a big fan of him, but he only has a 2% turnover-worthy play rate. He protects the ball a lot. I think there's a decent chance Houston steals possessions in this game. And for whatever reason, beyond my explanation, Davis Mills has played 11 career games on the road, 11 at home. He is so far superior at home than he is on the road. His interception rate decreases big time when he's at home. He's got Nico Collins, Brandon Cooks playing again. I don't think the Washington secondary is particularly good. Their best corner, Kendall Fuller, is graded 68th best cornerback by PFF. And last week's result was so misleading for the Texans. As someone who bet the Giants personally, what a lucky win in terms of Houston being able to go the field. They had 6 trips into the red zone. They scored only 1 touchdown in that game. So I think this number is wrong. And I'll hold my, listen, you bet on bad teams, bad things can happen, right? There's blowout potential in any game that involves the Texans. But I think that they're very live in this game, and I would be hesitant to bet Washington needing them to win by 4 or more in this game, as everyone should be caught up on their World Cup streams now with Ecuador leading 1-0. If someone could tell me who scored that goal, that would be particularly helpful. So I don't have, well, I'll just search it really quickly. Okay, Valencia, beautiful. Got him in the pool. Thank you. Let's go. They took it away from VAR. They give it back on the PK. Let's go. All right. It's really tough to talk to yourself, by the way, on Sunday mornings. Really wonder how people are reacting to things. Okay, Eagles and Colts. Lots of love for the Colts this week. So we're under a touchdown now. Total 45. I don't share the same love that I think a lot of others do in terms of Colts. Wow. Got another one? I don't know what's going on. No, never mind. These people are all confusing me in the chat with the scores. I'm on a delayed stream here. Okay. I would not bet the Colts in this game. There's no scenario in which I'm betting the Colts at this number of 6.5. I don't care what the look ahead was. I know some people mentioned that this week, which it was like 10 last week. There's an adjustment for sure because Matt Ryan is in there instead of Sam Ehlinger, which is a big difference. As bad as Ryan has been, Ehlinger is like he's incompetent in terms of moving the offense down the field. I do think that there are some matchup advantages that I like for Philly. The loss of Shaq Leonard, I think, is felt against a mobile quarterback like Jalen Hurts. The Colts really haven't faced a true mobile quarterback this season. Now, granted, there's not a ton of them in the NFL nowadays who are as much of a threat to run as they are to pass. So it's tough to say for sure, but this is newfound territory for them. The Colts pass defense has not been particularly good this season, and they've played just the 21st ranked opposing passing games in terms of success rate. Philadelphia passes 4% over expected on first down. They're 10% over expected on second and long. They're not a team that throws incomplete on first down and then runs the ball for 2 yards on second down. That's not what they do. Now the Colts lose Kwity Paye again with an ankle injury. Obviously, we have to account for the loss of Dallas Goedert, which is going to affect the Philadelphia offense going forwards. But I do like the matchup for the Eagles here and being able to move the ball. Matt Ryan was fine last week. That was against the Raiders defense. The Raiders defense is 4th last in pressure rate. They really just stink as a whole for anyone who's watched the Raiders this year. The Eagles, on the other hand, 7th best pressure rate in the entire league. The general consensus, I think, for people taking Indy is that they're just going to run the ball down the Eagles' throats because Washington was able to do it on Monday Night Football. The Colts might try to run the ball at will, but their running game is nowhere near what it was last year. I think in our heads, we just especially for those who play fantasy, you think of Jonathan Taylor last year. It hasn't been the same this year because the passing, the threat of the pass is not the same for the Indianapolis Colts. And then the Eagles, they win by margin a lot. 6 of their 8 wins were 8 points or more. The only 2 wins that they had that were close, they were actually winning those games pretty comfortably against Detroit and Arizona before those teams came back as well. So it's a very strong lean for me to the Eagles. Not enough to play, but I guess, listen, a lot of people who played the Colts earlier in the week were playing it at very different numbers than 6.5. So I totally understand getting anything above 7. I get it. Just, I don't love the matchup for the Indianapolis Colts. Seth took Jack Stoll over 12.5 receiving yards with Goddard out. I have no idea how they're going to integrate him into the offense. He hasn't had a lot of snaps this year, but Goddard was a pretty reliable third down target. So it's going to be interesting to see the Eagles offense going forwards. All right. Been moving pretty slowly today through games here. We'll get to the Jets and the Patriots. 3.5 now, pretty much the entire market. I honestly don't think that there's much left in this game or anything to do. This is kind of where I thought the market would settle and what I thought the number should be. I know some people scooped up those early Jets 4s and also some 3.5s, and then New England got bet back. I was in the camp of betting New England back. I could never have this game just close at 3, considering the fact that New England played against the New York Jets on the road a few weeks back, and they closed 2.5, close to 3 in that game. So they can't be the same price at home. That's just not right. And man, like Zach Wilson throws 3 picks in that game. Horrible, horrible game. In that game, the Patriots generated 18 pressures. They only turned 2 of those into sacks. That's an 11% pressure to sack rate. That's very, very low relative to league average. It actually could have been way worse for the Jets offense in that game if those pressures manifested into sacks. Zach Wilson is the worst quarterback in the league against pressure, against the defense that generates the most pressure in the entire league right now. I just don't see a scenario in which it ends well. You look back to last year, the games for Zach Wilson against the Patriots were equally pathetic. The first was a 4-turnover game. The Jets lost those by a combined 60 points. They have Mekhi Becton, George Fant, Elijah Vera Tucker on IR. Dwayne Brown has not been the same at left tackle since returning. They don't have a single above average offensive lineman other than their center, Connor McGovern. Corey Davis is ruled out. I mean, I really struggle to see the Jets having any consistency moving the ball. Now, Christian Barmore's out on defense for the Patriots. I believe he was placed on IR. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I know for sure he's out. Would I be worried about Mac Jones against the Jets D? Yes, I would. That's why I would not lay 3.5 in this game, because you're reliant on the Patriots now to win by margin. But I do trust the Patriots offense more than the Jets offense, especially with David Andrews back, who they didn't have in the first matchup. Sheldon Rankins out on the Jets defensive line hurts them against the run and the pass. Devontae Parker is going to play today. 3.5 just seems like the right number, maybe like a 3.75, somewhere in that range. But again, I wouldn't be in a rush to bet the Patriots now, knowing that they have to win by margin in this game. Okay, we move on. A couple more early games, early starts. If anyone does see any big injuries come across, please let me know. As again, I talk to myself in real time. I try to absorb as much as I can in real time. It is very difficult to do so in a lot of these cases. So it is what it is. We move on. Rams and Saints. I'm going to hate myself for this. So tons of Rams money. After the Saints caught all the early money in the week. Rams caught all the late money. A lot of this is to do with Matt Stafford. The early money was to do with Cooper Kupp. I'm going to bet the over 39 for $75. And you might be thinking, Rob, you're a lunatic. Cooper Kupp is out. The Rams offense sucks. How is this game possibly going to get into the 40s? I'm not going to lie to you. I've had those same thoughts many times. Again, I account for a lot of this stuff, right? I'm making numbers on games that are accounting for a lot of what we have going on here. The Rams stink. I get it. Matt Stafford being back, cleared to play, off the injury report is big, period. This has to do a lot with the matchup, especially the Saints injury report. The one thing about the Rams this year, and not the one thing, I mean, they've struggled in a lot of things, but the Rams O-line has really not held up. They don't have their center, Brian Allen, today. It is a skeleton crew on the O-line. If there was going to be a matchup this year, I mean, there was already a matchup this year. It was against Atlanta, where Atlanta can't generate pressure. What did the Rams do in that game? They moved the ball a ton. That was their best offensive performance of the year. The Saints already don't generate pressure whatsoever. Now Cameron Jordan is out, missing his first career NFL game due to an injury. 33 years old, by the way. That's like one of the most impressive feats ever for a starting defensive end. Marcus Davenport is out with a calf injury. Their weak side linebacker, Pete Warner, not as important as the other two. He's out with an ankle injury. But Cam Jordan, Marcus Davenport being out, these are the two best players in the front seven for the New Orleans Saints. A front seven that already could not generate pressure. You now take away their top two players in terms of getting pressure. This is the best chance the Rams offense has to succeed all year, even without Cooper Kupp. And Marshawn Lattimore is out as well, still, for the New Orleans Saints. So all the problems that the Rams offense have had this year, I think they're least likely to manifest themselves in this game, or at least we're going to see a more competent Rams offense. That's how I feel about this. Obviously, I can't understate the injury to Kupp. He's huge. It's now Allen Robinson, Van Jefferson, Ben Skoranek. I don't even know who else is there. I don't know who would be their fourth wide receiver, Brandon Powell. But there's that. The other side of things, New Orleans has some injuries on the offensive line, right? And that's what's been talked about. So James Hurst, their left tackle, is out. The Rams don't generate any pressure on the outside. The Rams are one of the worst pressure rate teams in the entire league. And that would come as a shock to a lot of people because they have Aaron Donald. That's the reason why. Aaron Donald is the only player on this Rams defense that generates pressure consistently. Nobody else does, especially on the edge. They're in a dome, good conditions, total in the 30s. I disagree. I think this one should be in the 40s. Maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I am nuts. I probably am. We're in there on the Rams over. Detroit and the Giants. So a friend of mine, a colleague of mine at the Hammer, Jacob Grimenia, is going to be at MetLife today for this game. Have already gotten the weather update from him. It's windy. Is it windy enough where it's going to completely deteriorate both teams' passing games? No, but it is relatively windy at this game today. That's why the total has come down for the majority of the week. By the way, Jacob and myself and Alex Moretto hosting a World Cup show every single day, 4:15 Eastern time. That's over on the Fine Margins channel on YouTube. 2 S's at the end. Fine Margins. Subscribe to that. There's already some group stage previews that are up there as well, which would be big. I mean, you guys can consume some good stuff, but we will be doing a daily show 4:15. This game in particular, I think the market has settled exactly where it needs to be here. Anyone who got the early Lions over the course of the week, think that was a great bet. Obviously, with where the market stands now, the starting point for me every week is how do the Giants' opponents fare against the blitz? The Giants, under Wink Martindale, blitz more often than any team in the NFL, almost 40% of the time. But they only generate a pressure 23% of the time. So they're actually not getting home a whole lot. For the past several seasons, Jared Goff's numbers against the blitz versus no blitz are almost identical. His turnover-worthy play percentage this season is actually lower, 2% lower when he's blitzed. He's played well. The issues regarding Frank Ragnow, their center, who was injured, dealing with a foot injury or a toe injury over the course of the week, looks like he's going to play today. The issue is the weather. Took the Lions last week in Chicago. Weather didn't turn out to be that bad. As the weather gets worse, I want less and less to do with Jared Goff. That's just been a problem for him his entire career. The Giants' defense, in my opinion, is quite overrated. They've put up below average metrics against a below average opposing schedule. Look at the offenses they've played. They played the Titans. They played the Panthers. Cowboys with Cooper Rush. He played the Bears early season offense. Very different. Packers, Texans. Dexter Lawrence is going to play, which is big for them. The Lions rush D, though, is a problem. And that's going to be appealing for anyone who wants to bet the Giants. I will say the last 4 weeks, the Detroit rush defense has been improving. They've actually been a league average rush defense over the past 4 weeks because they've been getting some pieces back into the lineup in their front seven. Michael Brockers, John Kaminsky. These are depth players, but they've been helpful, especially with Aiden Hutchinson getting better. Looks like Charles Harris is still out, though, or will be out today. And I just think that we've kind of settled in a spot where this is the right number on the game. So very challenging to come with value here. If I had to bet it for pick'em pools, I know a lot of you guys are very interested in this over the course of the week. I would definitely say that I would take the Lions at this price. just because, again, you need the Giants to win by 4. Another, like, one of these games, this is the NFL this year, right? Like, you need the Giants to win by 4 to win a bet. Does not sound like a great bet. Does not feel like a great bet, just because of the state of their offense overall. All right. Thank you, Carr, for the updates. So Gus Edwards is out. Mark Andrews in. AJ Terrell, Eric Harris, both active. I think those are both expected. Damakong Su and Linval Joseph are active. Jordan Poyer is active. Devontae Parker active. Thank you very much. And in this World Cup game, so much for the Qatar rigged World Cup. I mean, who knows? Maybe we'll see something crazy in the second half, but pure domination from Ecuador so far, which, I mean, it's good. I'll take it. I'll take these Valencia goals. Keep racking them up. All right, let's get back into it. Late games today. All right. Once again, all odds sourced from Pinnacle as we work through the Sunday pizza buffet here. Rotation number, top to bottom. Broncos and Raiders. I don't really have a strong opinion on this game, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. Market has kind of been in the same spot over the course of the week. There was one time when I was pretty tempted by the under. Two cancerous teams. Denver's offense is a disaster. They can't pass protect whatsoever. Maybe it's not an issue against the Raiders defense, but I honestly didn't think Tennessee would be able to generate pressure without Jeffrey Simmons. They held the Broncos to less than 250 yards, so who knows? Now you have KJ Hamler, hamstring injury, Jerry Jeudy out, Kendall Hinton, even if he's playing, is dealing with a shoulder injury. Remember, Tim Patrick is on the IR, so now, you're essentially down 3 of your top 5 wide receivers to start the year, and one of them is banged up. You have injuries on the O-line. Cam Fleming's got a quad injury. He's banged up. He's been playing some right tackle. Is going to hurt their depth. Graham Glasgow, shoulder injury. But as much as I'm ragging on Denver, for as bad as their offense has been, their defense has held up. What concerns me is that the Raiders did move the ball with ease on Denver the first time around. Since then, we have to account for the fact they've lost Darren Waller. They've lost Hunter Renfrow to IR. The O just isn't the same. Denver's going to key in on Devontae Adams with the number 1 graded PFF corner in Patrick Surtain right now. Devontae Adams dealing with an abdomen injury, apparently pretty painful. Haven't seen a status update on Baron Browning, but if he's back in this one, that would be big for the Denver defense. I just wonder if Vegas is a dead team at this point. Like, Josh McDaniels stinks. The performances have been embarrassing, frankly. Might be like a lame duck coach. I don't really know what to do, but strong lean to the under. I'm just so concerned about the Raiders defense. The Raiders defense is horrible. Horrible defense. And that's what's kind of keeping me off of it. Very strong. Like I said, lean to the under. I'm not going to lock in a play there. I actually might do it by the end of the day. We'll go to Chiefs Chargers because we're one road, and this was flexed into Sunday Night Football. One-way action towards the Chargers this week, and the over, entirely injury related. Can't say I disagree. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams expected to go for the Chargers. Juju Smith-Schuster has a concussion. He's officially been ruled out for the Chiefs. McCole Hardman out for the Chiefs as well. So we're going to have a very different looking Chiefs receiving core today with Marcus Valdes-Scantling, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Justin Watson. Interesting group. Ultimately, I know you guys, like, this is Sunday Night Football. I'll be back for Sunday Night Football, 8 p.m. Eastern time tonight. That goes live from the Hammer HQ on Twitter and on YouTube. You can subscribe to that channel. I'll be joined by Fabian Somer, Suma, as he is known in the space, and we'll break down this game. He might have a stronger opinion on this than I do. Hopefully he does, to make it a little bit more entertaining. But I think we're like in the right spot now. I make like this around 4.75, something like that. So I'm not going to really bet the Chargers at 5. There's not a ton of value there. I did do the Matchbook podcast earlier this week. I said if you can get a 51 on the total, I'd expect it to go up. I would play the over. There's 51s widely available. And then, that's where we're at now. I mean, I can't break down much more than that, other than I think the market has accurately, got the line, moved the line to the right spot. Adam, can you name the channel for the World Cup plays again, please? Yes, at Fine Margins. Margins with 2 S's at the end. You can follow that account on Twitter. You can follow it on YouTube. Weekdays, Monday to Friday, 4:15 Eastern. Myself, Alex Moretto, Jacob Grimenya, sometimes Joey Kanish. Tomorrow, we're going to have the Drunken Goon on. For those who have been in the Right Angle Sports Discord for a long time, Drunken Goon, one of the best soccer bettors out there, used to work with some bigger European groups. So we'll have a good mix of recreational and sharp stuff in there. But I want to bet the World Cup every day. I know a lot of other people do. So I'll talk through my thoughts on these World Cup games every single day. Okay. Cowboys and Vikings. Cowboys -1.5, 75 bones. That's it. Okay. Again, I'll make the screen bigger so you guys can see the Cowboys symbol behind me. I am a Dallas Cowboys fan. I've been doing these shows for 4 or 5 years now. Back in the day when Periscope still existed. I used to give a little, speech prior to every Cowboys game. I am a Cowboys fan. For those that know, I've bet against them. I've bet on them. I try to remain as impartial as possible when doing these breakdowns of the Cowboys games. And, Jordan, Cowboys homer. This is a tricky game. And you're going to see, I think, a lot of people on opposite sides of this game. I don't buy into here. Let me start by saying that this is a trap. How can the Vikings be underdogs at home? They're 8-1. What do the sports books know? Here's what the sports books know. They know the same thing as every single other person on the planet, is that the Vikings have been incredibly lucky this year. A team can be good and they can be lucky. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. You can say a team is good because I think the Vikings are good. You can also say that they've outperformed their record. The Vikings are not an 8-1 team. They've been trailing by 10 points in each of the last 4 quarters. They've won those games. That's not going to consistently happen. So the Vikings are viewed in market as a team that is more like a 5-win team than an 8-win team. And I think that's fair. If you look at power ratings, you're going to say, oh, this line is wrong. There's no way or whatever, this and that. The matchup is where I struggle for Minnesota, because all of you have been watching football. You watch football for many years. You've watched Kirk Cousins for many years. When Kirk Cousins is kept clean, guy looks like Dan Marino. When Kirk Cousins is under pressure, name the most garbage quarterback you can think of, because that's what he looks like. And there's a very large discrepancy between Kirk Cousins kept clean, Kirk Cousins under pressure. It's not even close. It's the biggest discrepancy of any quarterback in the league. By every conceivable metric, Cousins is way worse when he's under pressure. If you look at the games where he's been pressured the most this season, week 2 against Philadelphia, remember that game, by the way, deer in the headlights game. Last week against Buffalo. They won last week against Buffalo. I'll get to that in a second. In those 2 games, Kirk Cousins has 8 turnover-worthy plays. 8 in those 2 games. Now, the Cowboys pass rush last week, they're missing Anthony Barr. Keep your eye out on Anthony Barr and his status for today's game. He's expected to play is very big, because when Anthony Barr is not on the field, Micah Parsons drops into coverage a lot. When Anthony Barr is on the field, Micah Parsons goes after the quarterback. So this is what happened last week. Barr out. Parsons played a lot of coverage. Makes no sense, but that's what they do. DeMarcus Lawrence, also another key cog on the defense. He was limited in Friday's practice. Mike McCarthy said he has all intention for him to play. I think he's more likely to play than not. I just don't see the Vikings O-line holding up. And you can say that the Vikings O-line is best on the edges, good tackles. That's fine. The Cowboys move defensive players all around on the defensive line. They send pressure from everywhere. So I am very concerned for Kirk Cousins in this game. I do my own luck metrics. I think it's important to keep on top of luck in the NFL. Granted, you're going to notice something all the time in terms of luck. Good teams end up being lucky by the end of the year. Bad teams end up being unlucky. That's just the nature of the way that luck works in the NFL. By my metrics, Minnesota has benefited the most from luck relative to any other team in the league. The Giants are a close second. The gap between those two teams, the Vikings and Giants, to number 3 is larger than the gap between number 3 and number 11. Those teams have been extremely lucky, period. Again, I'm not saying the Vikings are bad. It's fine. You can benefit from some things that work in your favor. But consistently trailing in the fourth quarter and pulling out wins, probably not going to work out in the long run. The one handicap I've seen for Minnesota that's talked about a lot is that their run D is very good. And people view the Cowboys as like this big rushing team. But with Dak on the field this year, they're much closer to 50-50 in terms of run-pass splits. All that rushing pretty much came with Cooper Kupp in the lineup. In fact, this year, they passed 5% more than expected on first down with Dak Prescott in the lineup. They are kind of a throw-first team that goes under the radar. Okay. Just going through the comments here. Nathan Peterman. That's a great example of the worst quarterback you could think of. I did do like a quarterback bracket years ago, like worst quarterbacks ever, or over the past couple of decades. Hopefully Dallas can keep Parsons on the line instead of dropping into coverage every other play. That would be nice. Am I a complete idiot and plug the wrong YouTube channel? Very possible. Just one S on YouTube for fine margins. Thank you very much, Alex. I'm like new in the content space, right? And especially new in the YouTube space. And when we were setting up these YouTube accounts for our channels, no, it's 2 S's at fine margins. I don't know. It is 2 S's. I guess it works either way. If you type fine margins, you're going to find it. Purple logo, part of the Hammer Soccer content division. You will not miss it. There's already 3 group previews that are up on that channel. All right. Some more comments here. Okay. We move on. Final game on the card. Bengals and Steelers. All right. This one's going to be a little bit more challenging. I am not a proponent of betting into the worst possible number you're going to get over the course of the week. The Steelers could have got them at 4 or higher for the duration of the week. There were some 5s, 4.5s, 4. We're now 3.5. It is the worst number. I make the game 3. So I would bet the Steelers. If I had not bet Pittsburgh going into today's games, I would still bet them here. So that's the only reason I'm going to advocate for this bet here. But we're in. $50 Steelers, half unit, worst possible number. Jamar Chase still out. That's what people are going to focus on. DJ Reader back on the defensive line. That's big for Cincinnati, especially since Josh Tupou is out. I don't know if Trey Flowers is playing. I haven't seen anything yet. But with Chidobe Awuzie on IR, Dax Hill out, Eli Apple, Cam Taylor-Britt, that might be the worst starting cornerback combination around. And I don't think the market on the other side of things has quite caught up to the Steelers just yet. I mean, maybe it is catching up because we've seen one-way action on this game, but it's been talked about ad nauseum, the difference between TJ Watt, like the Steelers defense of TJ Watt on and off the field, manifested itself last week against New Orleans. Ahkello Witherspoon is out with a hamstring injury, but Minka is back, which is huge. You have your 2 big playmakers here on defense. Now, Joe Burrow's not Andy Dalton. I don't want to say that he is because, the Steelers shut down Andy Dalton last week. But the Bengals have struggled with elite pass rushers this season. A few weeks back, Halloween night, you will remember that Browns defensive line just shredding the Bengals O-line. And the likelihood for that to happen again today, I would say, it's way more likely than unlikely. Just too much going in the Steelers' favor. Weaknesses at corner for Cincy. The matchup advantage with the D-line against the O-line. And again, I talked about Pittsburgh last week when they were taking on New Orleans. But their schedule has been so tough this year that they just end up being hugely underrated in market. So it is what it is. Steelers. Do a full recap here of the picks. Okay. Rams, Saints over 39. Again, just so many injuries on the Saints defense that I think best opportunity for the Rams offense to succeed. Bears +3, Texans +3. This order, these 4 picks in a row here would almost make me want to yak all the chili that I consumed yesterday at the chili cookout. It's a rough one. Carolina 13, Pittsburgh 3.5, and then Dallas -1.5. As always, you can follow all of these on Betstamp at Rob Pizzola. I will stick around for questions. Why do you have so many different channels? So this is a good question in terms of structuring a content company. Part of the challenge is we do a lot of content at the Hammer. We're producing consistent, regular content every single day for multiple sports. And I also consume a lot of content on YouTube and this and that. If you put all of this content onto one singular YouTube channel, it turns a lot of people off when they see a lot of stuff that they're not interested in. And frankly, there are sports fans that only care about the NFL or only care about soccer or only care about a couple sports here and there. And allowing people to just focus in and hone in on the content that is of interest to them, I think is more important than just cluttering one entire channel with all of this stuff and turning a lot of people off to a lot of it. There's a number of ways you can obviously go about it. And also, frankly, there's an existential risk when having just one YouTube channel because of the policies that are associated with YouTube. We've already had a couple channels shut down with no explanation given as to why. So it's important for us to just make sure that we can reach different audiences. Do you think the Patriots make the playoffs? I honestly don't know. I don't even know what the records are of teams in the leagues because I never even focus on that and I barely look at futures markets. Thoughts on Monday's game? Very challenging. I think the 49ers offense has a very, very good chance of putting up points in this game. Total looked a little bit low to me, but the limitations of Kyler Murray, if he plays, and being able to scramble. I didn't play anything in this game, but it would be a San Fran and overlook if I had to play anything in that game. Appreciate the positive comments about the Hammer. We'll continue doing it. Honestly, I love doing content. It's been a passion of mine since I was in my early 20s. I started as a radio producer, eventually became an on-air host. And then when I eventually quit that to just focus on my betting full time, there was always a spot that I missed. I love doing content. I'll continue to do content as long as people support it. I'm in. So if you can, tell your friends. If you do enjoy the content we produce, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channels. Obviously, if we're able to grow, I can do more and more and more. So it's really highly dependent on you guys. Oh man. All right. Been talking to myself here for 55 minutes. I do appreciate everyone that's tuning in. It is Sunday. You guys know what that means for the most part. I will be back later on tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern time with Fabian Sommer, Hammer HQ, prime time. We'll break down the Sunday night football game. We'll recap the day. And then 10:30 Eastern time, right back on this channel on Forward Progress. Myself, Clive Bixby, we'll do a full recap of the day. But most importantly, we're going to take a guess at what the lines are going to be for next week in the NFL for week 12 and which way the market will move them. Honestly, if you guys have been paying attention to those on a weekly basis, I think we've actually been pretty good and pretty effective in predicting which way those lines are going to go. So much more on the hammer for the remainder of today. This has been Week 11 in the NFL Pizza Buffet, powered by Pinnacle Sportsbook. If you're in Ontario, open up a Pinnacle account. Low vig, great sportsbook. I've been betting at Pinnacle forever now. Absolutely should have a Pinnacle account. Not available to those in the US, but for those in Ontario, it must be 19 plus. Make sure that it's part of your repertoire. And if you're doing line shopping on a weekly basis, you are going to find the best price at Pinnacle a lot of times out there. I'm back tonight. This has been the Pizza Buffet on the Forward Progress channel of the Hammer Betting Network. Good luck with your bets, everyone.